Mr. Julius, you're most welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
You're welcome, sir.
I would like to invite Mr. Julius to introduce himself. Yeah, I think he will do that better. Mr. Julius?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can go on. Introduce yourself. You tell us about you, because I'm sure we have a lot to learn from you. We have a lot to hear from you today. So you can start by telling us, the introduction. You introduce yourself to us.
Okay, so
We want to know you more.
okay. Thank you very much. My name is Julius Rone. I'm the Group Managing Director of UTM Group. UTM is developing Nigeria's first floating liquefied natural gas project, the FLNG. We are the first indigenous company out of Africa to develop such project of this magnitude. Before we started this project, which we started the conception in 2019, UTM has been actively involved in the Nigeria oil and gas space. It's supporting the international oil companies that have been operating in Nigeria in services and offshore support services. What we do is that we also have a partnership with the Nigerian Navy. We provide logistics and support for offshore security for the IOCs during their operations. We're also working with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC Limited, as part of the energy security for the country. We do trading, we take Nigerian crude and we bring back refined product to support the in-country demand. Also, we are actively involved in construction as well. So UTM is fully in operation in the entire oil and gas space in Nigeria. UTM was incorporated in 2006, and since then we've been actively involved in the private sector, and we've been supporting the Nigeria oil and gas space. We've done a lot in the industry. Also, UTM also as part of our social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, we do a lot of social services in the host communities and other collaborations to reach out to the needy and also support other areas of social amenities. So that's a brief on the background on the UTM itself. I believe that what is important, UTM has keyed into the government of Nigeria initiative of the energy transition has been promoted globally, and Nigeria has designated our gas as our transition fuel. And the government has also created the Decade of Gas initiative. On the back of that, we're developing this project that will be of immense benefit to the country. And also the project is in a multi-dimension benefit to Nigeria. It's going to save the environment in terms of the flare gas that is currently being flared in the current asset where we're going to deploy the floating LNG or 104. Once we deploy the floating LNG, there will be no more flare gas in that asset. And then the gas that is being re-injected will be monetized for the country. And apart from that, there's over 500 tons of LPG per annum that will come into the domestic market to take out a lot of Nigerians, mostly the women folks that uses firewood as a means of energy, to move them into a cleaner energy and safer energy. So also save the environment for deforestation, because part of what they use as a means of energy is to fetch firewood by cutting down trees in around the communities. So Nigeria in itself requires over 2 million tons of LPG per annum. Nigeria LNG is doing about 500,000 of that volume. So therefore, Nigeria is importing over 1.5 million of domestic usage of LPG. So with the UTMF LNG project, 500,000 will come into domestic. It will reduce the demands on forex, and it will also reduce the cost of LPG drastically, because when you bring it into this country from this project, you will knock out the factor of forex, which is very key. We need to convert the forex to bring in the LPG. So this project will save all those costs. And when you take out those costs from your overall cost of bringing out your product, you see that the cost of delivery will be drastically reduced. And by so doing, to affect the last mile in Nigeria, whereby they will get an LPG at a reduced price because of this project. So there's a lot of benefits for this project. And above all, it's going to support the demand for cleaner energy in Europe and the world, because we're going to support that with the exporting of the LNG to Europe and other parts of the world. So this project is a global project, and that meets the world demands for energy. And this is coming out from Nigeria, and it's a project that is being developed by Nigeria, and which is the first of its kind. And we believe that when we deliver this project, this will create a lot of opportunity for other Nigerians in terms of job creation and other benefits on the value chain of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ron. Honorable Ron, I would like to welcome you. Just start a bit, apologize because I connected a bit late when you were already on time. So fault is entirely mine. I'm in Banjul, we are an hour away from Nigeria. So formally, I don't know whether my colleagues have started the meeting, or because I'm supposed to introduce you to our audience, most of whom have been reading about you or hearing about you because we are spread across Africa. I'm sure maybe those in Nigeria may be familiar, but others like us in the Gambia and others in Uganda or in Tanzania, we are spread across the continent. So I'd like to say a few things, and then we can go to the question and answer proper, where we expect you to take us to series of issues related to the energy agenda in Africa. So my name is Sana Kamara. I am your co-host today. I'll be hosting with Alan, my colleague from Uganda. Alan is online too. So welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
So for the benefit of our listeners, of our audience, I'd like to say a few things about our honorable guest here, Julius Rone. Rone is not new to the energy sector. He is the group managing director and CEO of the UTM Offshore Limited in Nigeria. And we are happy to have him today on this special one-on-one engagement. This event will provide a platform for Mr. Rone, who, like I said, is a prominent African oil and gas leader, to share insights on key topics, including the establishment of UTM Offshore Limited, the company's floating LNG project, and the final investment decision. Ron will also discuss the anticipated impact of the development in Nigeria, Africa, and global economy. Mr. Ron's reputation as a seasoned businessman, philanthropist, and promoter of Julius and UT Rone Foundation will have an opportunity also to interact with us today to discuss a lineup of issues, not just for Nigeria, but for the continent at large. His membership in various professional bodies, including the Institute of Directors, IOD, American Society of Administrative Professionals, ASAP, and American Management Association speaks to his reputation as our esteemed guest today. So thank you very much, sir. You're welcome once. Without wasting time, I like to go straight to the questions. Alan, are you on the call? You want to start with the questions, or do you want me to go fire right away?
She's mute.
Okay, great. Maybe she's on mute, so I'm just gonna go right away and continue with it until she's able to join us. So the first question we are looking at is, what inspired you to establish UTM Offshore Limited, and why you embarked on floating LNG project?
Okay. Thank you very much. Right. First, again, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform and to also share the insight of the UTM journey so far and what we've been doing in the energy sector in Nigeria and Africa at large. It's a great honor to be a guest speaker or guest appearance on this noble profession. Like you said in your introduction, UTM is known globally for embarking on Nigerian first floating LNG. Your question is, what inspired me to establish UTM Offshore and embark on a floating LNG project? Well, I'm from the Niger Delta area of Nigeria, which is the oil-bearing communities area. So therefore, we grew up as little kids to see that a lot of exploration and oil activities have been taking place in our communities. And so therefore, we pick up the interest from a very young age to see that once we get the opportunity, we would like to actively participate in that area of the energy sector of the country. So that is the first inspiration for me, because I believe that it's a God-given resources that was placed on our area, and growing up to see what the development and what was actually being extracted from the communities, it's only encouraged me to say, look, once I grow up and get my feet on the ground, I need to get into this sector, not only because I'm an indigent, but because to prove to the world that indigenous companies and indigenous people from Nigeria and Africa can develop our resources. So therefore, when we conceived the idea of establishing UTM Offshore in 2007, it was an idea basically to get into the oil and gas space and contribute our quota. For me to embark on the floating LNG, a lot of things went through my mind, and I asked myself, Nigeria is #1 in oil and gas in Africa and #6 in the world. How come we don't have a floating LNG? And when I look at Africa, I see that we have about 2 floating LNG in Africa, and those 2 floating LNGs are owned by international oil companies, which means that there's no companies in Africa that has ever ventured into such area of development. And I took it upon myself to say, look, we must live by follow-up and say Africa has grown in terms of maturity in the energy sector, just like what Dangote has done in Nigeria. You can see he built the biggest refinery of 650,000 ton per day refinery. It's an Africa, it's a Nigeria, and it is the can-do spirit that allowed him to achieve that major feat that it looks impossible, but it's now possible because in Nigeria and Africa has done it. So it's in line with that spirit. We believe in UTM, ourselves and my team. We sit down and say, look, it is possible for Africa to develop a floating LNG. And once we get it right, others will follow suit. And once you get it right, it will attract the right investments for other people to join in developing Africa, because we have to lead the charge. We have to show that we are capable for investors to follow suit. So UTM came up with the idea in 2019. And when we mounted the idea, we introduced it to NNPC Limited, which is a national oil company, and they bought into the idea. that Africa forward, to drive them with a can-do spirit to say, yes, it has been done in Nigeria. Yes, it can be done in Ghana. It can be done in Mozambique. It can be done in Kinshasa. So therefore, that is the spirit behind it. And today, we've taken this project to a level whereby we can say conveniently that we have crossed the Rubicon and we're going to deliver this project by the special grace of God within time, budget, and with international standard. So this project will contribute a lot to the national, especially youth and women empowerment, and most especially give back to the society after being tremendously blessed by God. Thank you.
Yeah, Honorable Julius. The second question is also coming. Hello, Mr. Julius?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Yes.
The second question is also coming. How far have you gone on the project, and when will the final investment decision, FID, be taken?
Okay. So the project has, like I said earlier on, we've gone very far. All the engineering studies have been completed. And you know, it's like when you want to build a house, you identify the land, you clear the site, you go and do your engineering studies to say, I want to build a 7-bedroom, I want to build a 5-bedroom. Then once you finish the design, then you prepare to get all your permits from the authorities to say, okay, what you want to build here is in line with our standard, and it's okay for you to build it. So that's phase one. You just got the approval from the regulator, which is the license to construct the first floating LNG in Nigeria. That was issued to us just 3 weeks ago by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Authority, was presented to us by the Minister for State for Gas on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. So what that says is that we've moved to the next phase. What is the next phase? Is to prepare for the final investment decision. I just came in this morning from a trip around the world, whereby we had a couple of meetings, including in the United Nations. Afrexim is the lead that is arranging both the debt and equity on this project. And we had a meeting with them in New York. And because we've taken a date that will be announced between now and the end of the month, when we're going to announce the final investment decision. But we had a strategic section to look at where we are and what has been achieved, and if we can proceed for the final investment announcement. In terms of funding, the project is fully oversubscribed because of the interest and the demand for energy in the world. So we're very pleased with the level of aggregation of the debt and equity being arranged by Afrexim Bank. They've also secured several approvals from their management on what they're going to bring into the project. So definitely before the end of this year, the final investment decision on this project will be announced to the world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Julius. And you have a question number 3. How will the eventual completion impact Nigeria and the global economy?
Okay. Like I said, right, this project is a multi-dimension in terms of benefits to Nigeria. Let's start to the community, to the region, to Nigeria, and to West Africa and Africa, then the world at large. Now, why did I say so? First and foremost, the gas that we're going to use for this project is currently being flared, so which means it's polluting the environment and it's causing a lot of environmental issues for not only the immediate community, but the entire world. Because Nigeria has signed into the United Nations global reduction of emission to achieve the 1.5 centigrade. So therefore, this project will secure the Ministry of Environment approval that this project will further reduce and put Nigeria on the path to achieve the United Nations target of achieving 1.5. So that is the first step. Now, the next step of this project is going to create over 7,000 jobs across the value chain, which means a lot of people, not only Nigerians, all over the world will participate in this project. Now, during the construction phase alone, over 25,000 jobs will be created. And those 25,000 jobs will be created globally, not just for Nigerians, but around our professional space around the world. And part of the strategy is that several Nigerian youths will be taken to different parts of the world where the construction models and the construction of the hall and the integration will take place. They will understudy the process so that at the end of the completion of this project, they will sail back with the floating LNG, and they have been given a hands-on experience on how to manage and operate a plant of such nature offshore. And will be supported by an OEM, operation and maintenance company, who are one of the consortium companies that are building the floating LNG. They will also come in with other expatriates to operate and manage this project. So on completion, the project has multi-benefits to the world and Africa. Then the third aspect is the project, the product from this project will immensely support the demand for energy in country Nigeria. Earlier on, I said that Nigeria required over 2 million tons of LPG, and Nigeria LNG is only doing 1/4 of that volume, which means over 1.5 million of that volume is being imported into this country every year. And what that means is that because of the scarcity of forex, when you bring in your LPG, you're going to sell it in Naira. And when you sell it in Naira, you need to hedge that Naira against a dollar receivable that you need to use to re-import the LPG into the country. So therefore, you need to pass that cost to the last mile. So every household that is buying the LPG, we need to provide additional cost for the importer to be able to go back and import more LPG into the country. So that at the end of the day, the cost of LPG for maybe 5 kg or 2 kg is over 17,000 naira one of those cylinder bottles. So now, once you have this project in the country, first and foremost, we're going to charge in Naira for that volume. So you have no issue of looking for forex to go and import this volume from the UTMF LNG. So what that does is that it reduces your cost automatically once you're going to sell your LPG to the domestic market. So this is another major benefit to the Nigerian populace. And also, there are other companies that want to take part of this volume of the LNG to South Africa. They needed LNG for their plants. So one of the off-takers is discussing with us how to take some of this volume of the LPG LNG to South Africa. So the project is not only benefiting to Nigeria, it's going to benefit the entire continent. So for us, we believe that once this is delivered, it creates room for more of these projects to be sanctioned, because Nigerian government now focus is purely on gas development. So by the special grace of God, this will be the flagship, and this will open up that space for stranded gas offshore to be monetized through a technology that has been proven. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Julius. Before we proceed with the questions, we would like to inform our participants that they can also ask their questions, but those who raise their hands, they are the ones that we're going to allow to talk. Hello, participants. Yeah, if there is no one with a question, then we can proceed to the question number 4. What do you think Nigeria and other African countries can do to conquer the energy poverty?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
We are listening. Mr. Craig.
No, I think you raise your hand and we'll give you the floor. Please don't interject into the Q&A until we allow our guests to land. Just raise your hand and we'll take note of you, and we will call you once, so that we avoid this kind of disruptions, please.
Okay. What's the question, please?
So we can proceed?
Yeah.
Yeah, the question number 4 goes like this. What do you think Nigeria and other African countries can do to conquer their energy poverty?
Okay, thank you very much. We believe that Africa, Nigeria is a big brother to other African nations. So the conquering energy poverty has to start from Nigeria. But once it starts from Nigeria, it must dive to other African countries. So once Nigeria sneezes, it affects all the other African countries. So therefore, Nigeria is leading the charge by putting an emphasis on gas development, which is a key way to achieve the energy transition. Today in the world, Africa is in the complete deficit for energy among all the continents in the world. Africa is the one that is least that have access to energy. So therefore, government in African countries must play their part for investors to come in, because government alone cannot take the continent out of energy poverty. One, government must provide attractive physical incentive for public and private partnership. Two, government must provide access to funding. When we mean access to funding, the funding is coming, but there must be a mechanism that gives the investors the confidence that if I invest in Cote d'Ivoire, if I invest in Ghana, at the time I want to take out my investment, there's no impediment that will stop me from taking out my investment. So once that enabling environment is created, it encourages investors to bring in their flow and then invest in the energy sector. Like you are aware, funding is always difficult to achieve. And the reason, one of the major obstacles why investors are very wary and scared in bringing investment is once there's no conducive atmosphere for them to bring in their investment, and when they want to go out with the investment, they'll be easily take their investment out. That's one of the areas I believe that the continent leaders should focus. And the third one is to simplify the regulatory processes, because once you have a simplified regulatory framework that allows for an upstream development, midstream development, and downstream development, those will encourage an investor, because you don't want to come and put in an investment, and then when you started, for you to get a permit or for you to get an approval to proceed to the next step, will take you over 1 year or 2 years. No investors wants to tie their money waiting for this process to be completed. So the leadership in the continent must simplify the regulatory approval process to allow investors within the timeline, because as an investor, when you want to invest, you have a timeline to achieve everything. And once those timelines are stretched over what your projection is, automatically it triggers inflation to your cost of doing business. So therefore, the continent must simplify those processes and allow it and work within the timeline so that investors can have the confidence to bring their money. Number 5 is taxation. And taxation is another area that the continent must look at, because if you have multiple taxation, investors will not come in and invest. So because everybody wants to be sure of the level of tax they are going to pay from day one when you are preparing your financial model for your businesses. In your financial model, you impute the taxes that you need to capture and pay. Now, once you start the investment and suddenly there's you introduce a new taxation, it discourages an investor, because automatically it has altered their projection. They want to invest, hoping that in 2-3 years' time, after the gestation period, they'll start receiving the dividend for their payment. And in midway into the transaction, you introduce multiple taxation, then it gives investors cause to worry. So multiple taxation, whereby you have a regional government making tax, a local government making tax, you have the federal government making tax. So you have multiple taxation. So there need to be a unified taxation whereby an investor can click on the website of each country he wants to invest and see all the taxes that apply to his businesses and say, okay, with taxes of 15-20%, I can do a business and I make profit. And with that, it encourages investors to come in. And then ensuring policy consistency. Because once the government of a new administration comes in and change the policies of the last administration, then there's no consistency in policy. And investors does not like a situation whereby they are investing and the government midway will come up with a new policy that affect them in their transaction. That automatically discourage the next set of people who intend to bring their money, because globally, everybody is looking to where to put an investment. So therefore, you go to a friendly environment that gives you all the comfort to put in your investment. So they need to look at that. Then 3, there must be stable foreign exchange regime, which is very key. I don't want to come in and invest at an exchange rate of X. As at the time I want to take out my investment, the exchange rate has moved against my initial projection. That in itself brings me into a transaction of probability. So I don't know if 2 or 3 years time, when I want to pull out my investment, most especially because I'm investing in country, so I'm investing with your local currency. So if I want to convert and the exchange rate has moved against me, then I've lost a lot in my investment. So that's extremely important. Exchange rate stability. We encourage investors to say, okay, if the exchange rate is 1,000 CD to $1 and it's going to be there for 5-10 years, I can do my projection on the 1,000 CD to $1 and then make my investment. And I'll be sure that that's what the rate will stay for a period of when my investment is going to run. Or just give plus minus maybe 2-5% fluctuation within the agreeable numbers that an investment of such nature can accommodate. But when you put in an investment and in less than 1 year, the exchange rate has moved 4 or 5 times against you, it discourages you to bring in your money. And improve security. That is extremely important because nobody wants to bring in an investment where there is no security. So therefore, the continent must, as I think of a regional security platform, because most especially, most of these energy companies want to invest, and one of the major drain to their cost is security. So the continent must look at how do we mitigate and put in place security framework that can give an investor the confidence to say the country has a commitment to provide security for my investment, because I want to invest and employ your citizens. So it's all depends on you, and the onus is on you, the responsibility is on you to provide me security for my investment. So it's extremely key for the continent to look at the issue of security and create an enabling environment for investors to bring in their funds to invest. So once we get these principles right, then the continent will witness a lot of inflow, because a lot of investors are looking for where to put their investment. And there's a lot of return in investment in Africa, in Nigeria. So once you bring in, they know that. But these things that are deterring them from coming in with those investments. And in energy sector, you require huge capex to develop your energy sector. So therefore, the continent must look at those 7 points and mitigate them to encourage investors to come in and put in the required investment that we needed to develop our energy sector, which will leapfrog us out of energy poverty. Thank you.
Honorable Rom, this is Kamara again from Banjul. You will be with us. We are a very dynamic group of journalists, and we are sincerely interested in making an impact in the Africa's energy agenda. We still have a line of questions for you, so please, you will be with us. Question number 5. What is your take on the global energy transition and the quest for Africa's energy security? I'm sure maybe you understand this is a very hot topic right now because it has a lot of dynamics, and we like to hear your own expertise view on these matters.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, like you said, the global energy transition and the quest for Africa energy security. Like I said earlier on, today, Africa is the least continent in the world that has energy dependence. We are in dire need for energy. So Africa requires to develop our God-given resources, to use it to leapfrog the various economy in Africa. But unfortunately, the world is saying there should be energy transition. That's what the world is saying. But we are saying from Africa, yes, we agree with you. Somebody in New York, somebody in London, somebody in Singapore does not face it. They don't have the kind of challenges that we have in Africa. They have uninterrupted power for 24/7 for 365 days in a year. I don't think there is any part of Africa that enjoys that kind of uninterrupted power. So therefore, what is the only thing that we have in Africa? We have gas, we have fossil. Now the world is saying we should abandon our fossil and move to cleaner energy. African leaders are saying, yes, we agree with you, but it's not possible for us to abandon it now because we have not developed to that level to move to other means of energy. Let's use what we have to develop our continent, and then before we start talking about the transition. And so therefore, gas is a cleaner energy. Let's use gas as our transition to achieve Africa energy demands. And like, you know, for example, Qatar has oil and gas. Qatar decided to abandon their oil and face their development on gas. Qatar is benefiting from the value chain from gas. They are using that for energy, for industry. They've used that to industrialize their country, and they are one of the major exporters of LNG to the world. So Africa is saying we have gas in abundance. Let's use the gas as our transition to develop Africa. And that's the reason it has to be a deliberate policy for the continent to unify against gas development. And I say this that Nigeria has taken the bold step. There is the Decade of Gas Initiative. There is an executive order for incentive for those who want to develop gas projects. The government is not stopping there. The government of Nigeria is also supporting projects with funding to enable people get into the gas sector. And they also realize that to develop the energy sector, most especially using gas as a transition, will require so much capital. Going out there, they're looking for funding. There's challenges all over the places because of embargo on banks not to give money for fossil. But there's still a window. They are still accepting to fund gas projects. So this is the time for Africa to wake up and have a deliberate policy, have a policy that is friendly in nature to encourage investors to bring in their funds to put into the energy sector using gas as our transition, and then that will leapfrog the development of Africa. And that's the only thing we have. Yes, we agree that cleaner energy, solar, and other means of energy is what the West is pushing for. They also agree, if you look at it, that they need to use gas as you cannot just overnight switch from one energy mix to the other. It's not possible. So they've agreed that gas is a transition. So therefore, Africa has a window of about 50 years to develop our gas resources. So we can catch up at least with the basic requirement for the continent by using the gas to create electricity, create industry, and then using it to get our economy back on track. So I'm happy that a lot is being said and a lot is being done on the energy sector in Africa, and the focus has been given to gas, and which is a cleaner energy, by the way. So therefore, it's only far better off than the petrol or the oil. So once we develop our gas resources, we'll be able to use that to achieve where the world wants to be. And then once we've been able to get to a level whereby we've gotten our energy sector improved drastically, then we can start talking about multiple sources of energy for Africa. So for Africa, the only way out to develop this continent and Nigeria in general is to look at our gas development. And that's the only thing that we have. And we have them in abundance. Nigeria has over 290 CF of gas. Mozambique has 70 CF of gas. So in Congo has over 100 TCF of gas. So there's gas all over the continent. But the policies, the framework to attract that investment is what the continent should focus on. Like I said, there's a window of about 50 years that the world must deal with gas as an energy. So therefore, within this 50 years, we need to cash into that opportunity and develop our resources. And so we can be able to say in another 20, 30 years, Africa has reached over 50, 60% in developing our energy sector, and to be able to say, yes, we can start using other means of energy to support what we've gotten from gas and all the other means that wind energy and all the other solutions that are being branded around the world. But our focus should be on gas to achieve that energy transition. Thank you.
The Africa Energy Week has been a very like a trademark continental gathering of Africa energy players and experts, governments. Why is such a gathering important, and why has your organization or your business been investing in supporting this gathering for the past few years?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said earlier on now, the emphasis is on how Africa can govern our energy resource so that we can be energy security sufficient, right? And Africa Energy Week is a platform that is propagating that message to African leaders. And that's the reason why we continuously supporting the Africa Energy Week, because we believe that Africa must unite to be able to achieve our target goal. And the Africa Energy Week has created that platform. The last year's section has several key players in the industry, including private sector and government. Several presidents, serving and former president were in attendance. I remember during one of the sessions, former President Obasanjo was telling the president of Namibia, the late president of Namibia, and one other president that was there, that African leaders must have an African Leaders Energy Council, whereby we have a deliberate demand from the world to say, this is what we want. This is how we will need to develop Africa. And this is what we have as our resource. And we cannot abandon this and go for something that is unknown to us. Yes, we agree you needed to have a cleaner energy to save the environment. Well, luckily for us, we have gas, which is also cleaner and which we can use to transition. So Africa Energy Week is creating that platform. And we definitely support Africa Energy Week because they are propagating that Africa must be given a voice. Africa must be given the chance to use our God-given resources to develop the continent. And for us, anything that we advocate for the development of Africa, we are fully in support of it because we know as an entity, UTM Group, we are an African company. And we, all that's managing this company, are all Africans. We don't have an expatriate that is working currently at the management level of this company. So therefore, anything that we give the support for Africa, we will continuously be advocating for it. So Africa Energy Week has proven itself to be a viable platform that everybody is valuing around that section to ensure that we put our case forward to the world. And the world has to listen to Africa because you cannot abandon a population of over 1 billion and say you want us to switch to an energy mix and then abandon us to our fate. So they must listen to Africa because the world cannot afford a crisis from Africa. So Africa Energy Week is a yearly platform where evaluation of our progress and where we are and how we achieve our goals is a yearly gathering for African leaders. Like I said to them as part of my suggestion, they should start incorporating other leaders like president to have a section in Africa Energy Week, whereby while the business people are dealing on their business solution, African leaders will sit down, like what President Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo was proposing, to have an Africa Energy Council leaders that will put our position together and go to one of the COP. The next COP is coming in December, first week in December. So African leaders should be able to present our papers at the COP and say, look, we from Africa, this is the demand we want from the world. Because all the promises that was made to Africa that, oh, if we abandon our fossil, they will give us a lot of grants to develop a cleaner energy. Those grants are not easy, we can't access them. So a lot of those grants have not been deployed to Africa. And every year, last year at the COP in Dubai, several billions were announced. But how many of those billions have been channeled into Africa? So therefore, Africa Energy Week is a yearly platform for Africans to evaluate our progress from January to November before we end each year. So UTM is proudly to associate with the Africa Energy Week, and will continuously be working with them to propagate the Africa's position to the world, and the world has to listen to us to use our gas to transition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Julius. Before we proceed with question number 7, I would like to inform our dear participants that at the end of this session, we will allow only 5 questions to only those who will raise their hands. Are we together? Question number 7. In your opinion, what positive impact has the annual event made on the continent energy space? And what do you think the 2024 edition is very important to all the stakeholders?
I didn't get that very well, but you were breaking up. You said what? Can you come back again? I didn't hear you.
Okay, can I repeat?
Yes, please.
Okay. In your opinion, what positive impact has the annual event made on the continent's energy space? And why do you think the 2024 edition is very important to all the stakeholders?
Okay, thank you very much. Like earlier said, the Africa Energy Week has come to stay, right? There's nothing that will stop it anymore because it has gone through the teaching stage, and their recommendation is being listened to, and they're making the right impact. And I believe that attending this should be our 3rd Africa Energy Week we're attending. And from the first year we attended the Africa Energy Week to last year, we saw a significant progress from the Africa Energy Week in terms of engagement and participation. So we believe that this year, 2024 Africa Energy Week, will be a robust one, because I had the opportunity to speak with NJ Aew and some other Africa Energy Week team, where we were in Paris during the Invest Africa Summit, which was arranged in Paris. And at that summit, the lives of the investors that attended that summit, and everybody agrees that we're going to converge again in Cape Town. So therefore, I am looking forward to this year Africa Energy Week with a lot of optimism and hope that a lot will be achieved this year. And because you can see the level of awareness in the continent for gas development. A lot of gas projects is being sanctioned in Africa today. And a lot of African leaders just came back from China. China just announced over a $50 or $60 billion developmental fund into Africa in all sectors, including oil and gas. So I saw NJ Aew and his team in China, where they were discussing with the Chinese Development Bank, the China Exim Bank, and all the other financial institutions that they believe that will all participate in this year Africa Energy Week. So once you have all those level of people converge in one place, We just came back from Houston from the gas tech. And it's so important to have everybody in one city and one roof, whereby you have meetings lined up for you at different time. And instead of you traveling around the world to look for everybody, you have everyone converge in one position, and you can take up the meetings and agree on the next step as regard the project. So Africa Energy Week has provided a platform for our business leaders like us to tap into it and then meet with the right people, have a discussion on prospective projects that we are expecting to develop in the continent. Other leaders, other business owners in the continent are all going into Africa Energy Week to also pitch their project to prospective investors that are coming into this year Africa Energy Week. I believe that this year we make more success than last year. So the optimism is quite very, very positive that 2024 edition will be quite a robust one. And we believe that the outcome will surpass what was achieved in 2023. So UTM is very optimistic, and we are one of the gold sponsors, or diamond sponsor of this year edition. So we're going to participate in this edition, and we're also looking out for a positive outing in Cape Town, November. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We still have another question for you, Mr. Julius. What issues and challenges do investors and potential investors in Africa encounter, and how do you think they can be tackled?
Thank you very much. It's very, very.
So meeting. Someone needs car hire. Okay. Bye. Safe journey. Jesus.
Okay. So the challenges that I see for investors encounter how to invest in Africa, what are the issues and challenges to investors, potential investors in Africa encounter? They're very, very enormous. And like I said earlier on, funding is one of the biggest challenges. Funding. So therefore, there must be a conducive atmosphere. And I listed some of those issues in the last, when I was speaking on the same issue. In terms of your taxation, in terms of security, because an investor wants to tick all the boxes that all the major risks have been mitigated for them to bring in their investment. So once there's challenges in terms of security, in terms of policies, investors are wary to put in their money. So funding.
Forget about
So funding is number one. Unstable foreign exchange.
Sorry, sir. I'd like to just ask our participants to mute their mics. You need to put your mics on mute so that you will stop disrupting the session as we go on. Please maintain your mics on mute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Unstable foreign exchange regime is another one. And then corruption perception is key. Because investors, once they perceive that there is corruption, they will never put in their investment. So perception, I said the word perception because until it's proven or the person is found guilty, is presumed to be innocent, right? So by the perception is what is key. An investor doesn't want to perceive a corrupt environment. They will not put their money. So those are things that have to be mitigated in your companies and in the country where investors want to come and put in their money. Corporate governance is extremely important. So your company must have a corporate governance. Because once you don't have a corporate governance, the potential investors will not come and put in their money in a company that cannot guarantee that the CEO or if it's a state-owned company, they will not be run properly and there will be proper checks and balance. So the proper governance has to be in place to guide against that. And then, like I said, regulatory bottlenecks is another major one. So they need to look at that and make sure that all the regulators have a seamless process of giving their approval for investors to be comfortable to come and put in their investment and provide an investment incentives. You know, if you want an investor, you need to massage them. You need to give them something to encourage them to continuously put in their investment or come and put an investment. So you need to, there needs to be some incentive like a tax break or like a waiver. There must be something that the government must give back to encourage investors to come in. So those are some of the things they should look at. So once those things are in place, like the after the Africa Continental Trade Agreement, encourage investors to come into Africa and encourage Africa to trade among themselves. Afreximbank is doing a universal payment system whereby you can import something from Nigeria using the Chile from using Kenya's currency. And once you pay with Kenya, the seller in Nigeria can receive his money in Nigeria, Naira, and then he can send the goods back to you. So you're cutting out a lot of issues that the man in Kenya needs to go and buy dollar and send to a man in Nigeria before the man will not send the goods to him. So those kind of seamless method of transaction, we encourage investors. So you can have an investor trading in multiple countries in Africa and have a single payment platform whereby he can quickly turn his investment around and distribute goods and services around the continent. So we must thank Afreximbank for such initiative, because once that payment platform is up and running, then I can sit down in Nigeria and trade with someone from Senegal without asking the person to pay me in dollar. Just put the money through the payment settlement platform. I will sell to you with my Naira value, and you receive in your Senegal currency. And when you pay me, I receive in Naira. So there's no issue of currency fluctuation. So those are the things. Mitigations have started. The people are thinking along the lines to put things in place that will encourage this inter-Africa trade and also encourage investors to come into the continent by mitigating those concerns that I've just highlighted earlier. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Julius. And I still have one more question for you. What advice do you have for the government and potential investors?
Yeah, it's very simple. Like, the government needs to provide a conducive atmosphere for investors. Like I cannot go and invest my money if I go to Ghana and there's war in Ghana. There's no way I'll put my money there. I'll just take my money and go and leave it in the bank somewhere that I can easily call up my money anywhere, anytime. So there must be, government must ensure that there's security, there's conducive atmosphere, and so that it encourages investors. Because when investor wants to come in, there are certain parameters they must check. And if those boxes are not ticked, no matter how the return on investment are, they will never come into that country to put in that investment. So government must, number one, check security, which is key. Number two, government must provide micro economic stability, which is required for an investor, because investor wants to bring in his money and be sure that, okay, the government policies and environment is good, and I will be able to repatriate my investment as will and bring in my investment as will. So those are and the government also has to improve ease of doing business, which is very key. Reduce all the bureaucratic processes that they have. Once those things are worked and government reduces all those bureaucratic processes whereby you apply for visa for you to go to African country is more difficult than to go to Europe or to go to London. If I want to go to Angola today, it's going to take me 3 weeks or 4 weeks to wait for my visa. Why, if I want to go to London, I apply for visa, I can pay for 24 hours delivery time. My visa is out, and I'll go to London and come back. There's no direct flight from Nigeria to Angola. If there's a flight, it takes you 24 hours, 48 hours to get to Angola or to go to Mozambique. So all those are easy way of doing business. Government has to work as a body to look at the constraints and challenges that are affecting investors from doing business. There must be a visa on arrival policy. I can decide overnight and said I want to go to Ghana to do business. I want to go to Algeria to do business. I don't need to go and apply. I just put in my documentations in place. On arrival in that country, they issue me a visa. So there must be ease of doing business. And if I also want to register my company in that country, And it shouldn't be a long process to register a company. You just go put all the required document in the portal and print out your certificate. Here you go, and you start running your business. By so doing, the government is creating an enabling environment, and then government is benefiting from the taxes that are going to gain from those businesses that will come in. And also doing, there will be employment generation for others in the country. And so that will stimulate the economy. And then we can talk about progress in all front in the country and the business investors himself. Thank you.
We have our last question to you, as Ajerap. Can you give a glimpse of what you will be speaking at African Energy Week 2024?
So the topic for us in this 2024 AEW is assessing financing and difficulties to attract the right investment into Africa. So that's a topic that we're going to speak on, and using the UTM-FLNG as a test case or benchmark based on you're doing a project that requires multi aggregation of funding. So therefore, we're speaking from the point of experience, dealing with different lenders and different investors with different peculiarities and demands. So therefore, come and tell us your experience, how you have gone, how far you've gone in aggregating your funding, what are the lessons learned, what are the challenges. Those are the topics we want to speak on in this year AEW, and we'll be on the panel on the financing challenges and the ways to attract investment into the gas sector. So those are the topics we're going to deal on this year, and I believe it's a fundamental topic, because if you don't attract the investment, you have all the noble ideas, they will die with you, because you need to match those ideas with funding and then to bring it to a reality by developing the project. So financing is key, and financing is key. So we need to share those experiences with our brothers in other parts of the continent and other parts of the world to understand how to ensure that you have a bankable project. Because if you don't have a bankable project, no matter how valuable, beautiful it is, nobody will come in, because investors, as they are coming in to invest their money, they are investing other people's money. So they need to make returns to the investment, and they need to see that your project is bankable. And that's why financing is a key component to every project to succeed. So that's the topic we're going to deal on in this AEW 2024. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Julius. Now I will invite my co-host, Mr. Kamala, to come and take over on reactions and allowing participants to ask their questions to Mr. Julius. Mr. Kamala? Mr. Kamala? Mr. Kamala? I don't know where he has gone, but if he's not, then I also have my own question to you, Mr. Julius, as Mr. Kamala is coming over. How does
Okay,
the UTM offshore plan?
Sorry. The admin has kept all the mics on auto mute. I was struggling to comment, so sorry about that. So thank you very much, Alan, for the very well co-hosting job, the task. We have one more question number 10, before we go to the participants. I can see already a lineup of participants expressing interest in asking questions. So we'll have to just ensure that it is evenly distributed, that because some of them are bringing multiple questions, and we can give them only 5, allow them only 5, so that we are staying within the time agreed upon. So Honorable Ron, can you give us a glimpse of what will be we will be speaking on at the AEF 2024? Your perspective in this is important, because as journalists we are hoping to be there, to provide coverage and also look at other opportunities. So if you have an idea of what you personally will be speaking us, we will be looking out for your coverages that we can extend to you. Thank you.
Mr. Julius? Mr. Julius?
Okay, so can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I've answered the question earlier on. Maybe he wasn't there.
Yeah, I think he was on mute, so he couldn't hear you when you were answering the question.
Yes,
Then I also have
go ahead. Go ahead.
I have my own question to ask you, Mr. Julius. This is
Go
coming
ahead.
from me.
Yeah.
How does the UTM offshore plan to collaborate with the African Energy Bank to finance its floating liquefied natural gas project?
How does UTM offshore plan to partner with which bank? Which of the bank?
The African Energy Bank to finance its floating. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, Africa Energy Bank has not commenced commercial operation yet. So I would have loved to partner with them because it's a pioneer bank that is established for one purpose. It's an energy bank. So the reason why the idea was mounted by Apple is that we need to have an energy bank in the continent that will be looking at energy projects because most of the European banks are not forthcoming to fund projects of energy projects from Africa. So that was the idea behind it. But like you're aware, members countries just approved Nigeria to host the headquarters of the bank, and they are setting up their offices in Abuja, and we hope that before the end of the year, they will be up and running. So when they're up and running, the opportunity is that we're still going to pitch them but we have a project too that we want to do. So once we take an FID and sign the EPC contract on this project, we want to start the second project. So therefore, there's a huge opportunity for us to partner with Africa Energy Bank to look at how they can come into this project as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. You've exhausted the list of our 10 questions, and participants have a couple of others also lined up. So we'll just do justice by allowing you to, handle a couple of them because we still have about 25 minutes to wrap up, max. First question is from Sam Nwosu, is an environmental officer at Meeting Group. Hello, Sam, can you come on, or do you want me to read your question? Okay, Sam's question says, considering the diversity of the UTM group, how integrated is your ESG strategy and implementation process from the viewpoint of how impactful it has been on group competitors and communities?
Okay, thank you very much, Sam, for such a interesting question, because ESG is a major critical part for assessing funding today in any international banks, including local banks. So if you don't have a clear ESG program, nobody will assess funding to you. So as part of the project strategy, we have 2 ESG consultants that are working with us. One, Petronel, is an international ESG specialist. We are working with them. Then the other one is Rich4. They're based in Nigeria. They are part of the consortium of ESG team that are working with our internal team. Yes, so they've commenced the ESG. We've done several parts by visiting the community, taking the water sample, taking the soil sample, and come up with an ESG plan that is currently being submitted for consideration for approval by the consortium of banks in line with international World Bank standard. So ESG is extremely important for us, and we're working internationally to ensure that we have our ESG policies and plans in place to be able to assess the funding of the project is a key component that has to be approved with World Bank standards. So on ESG, we're very big on ESG. From day one, we incorporated that as part of the project development strategy. Thank you.
Mr. Kamara? Mr. Kamara, are you on? Mr. Julius?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is another question for you. Here, it goes like this. How does UTM offshore invest in building local expertise and talent within the energy industry?
Okay, exactly. So initially when I was speaking, I also touched on that already. Like I said, this is a noble project and it's a new technology that has not been run or tested in Nigeria. So what we're doing is that we've agreed with the Nigerian Content and Management Board, who is responsible for Nigerian content participation in the oil and gas industry. We've agreed that certain Nigerian youths will be taken out for training during the construction phase, so they understand how to manage and operate a plant of such nature offshore. And then they will be assisted or supervised by the international O&M company, operation and maintenance company, that will ensure that they are hands-on and they know how to manage the plant during operation. So by so doing, several Nigerian youths will be taken out to different parts of the installation and construction phase of the project and will be trained alongside the construction phase and get them to be practically understand how to operate the plant and how to run the plant so that you achieve a zero downtime and zero HSE issues during operation. So those are the plans that we're going to do to get Nigerians and others trained on how to manage the plant. So they are going to be part of the process from next year once the construction starts. We've already written to Nigerian Content Board to give us candidates who have applied in their website with their various credentials and their names and contact details. Once we commence the EPC phase construction, they will be incorporated with the EPC company, and then we'll start the process and then we're going in batches to various locations where this integration and the plant constructions will take place.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir. Okay, the admin has allowed my mic back on again. Michael from Energy Republic has sent two questions. I think I'll go with the second one. It says that you highlighted that UTM will also deliver LNG in Europe and other continents. Have you been able to secure a short-term or long-term contract with some clients in Europe or other continents outside Africa?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, we're planning to take FID this quarter, so that will be for the end of the year. One of the conditions for you to take a final investment decision, you must have an off-taker. And the only reason that a bank will give you money, there must be a clear off-taker who is going to off-take your produce, your LNG and your LPG. So we have negotiated the SPA, sales and purchase agreement, for a 15 plus 10 years contract for the off-take. So we're already at 85–90% completion of the negotiation. So therefore, there is a potential off-taker, a reputable off-taker of international standard that will off-take the volume out of this project. So to answer the question, yes, we have an off-taker that will take the volume to Europe and other parts of the world.
There are also two questions related to local content. One of them comes from our colleague again from Energy Republic, Michael. What is the level of local content to be carried out on the UTM FLNG project? And a similar question also came from a colleague. I don't know, maybe you want to take one at a time, or let me read both so that you can
Yeah.
the questions here. This one is from Adiola from Advisory Reports. How does UTM offshore invest in building local expertise and talent within the energy industry? So I guess both questions are related, so you can tackle both at the same time. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so like I said, right, I've answered the question inevitably in the last question I was asked. Local content is big for us because we, first and foremost, we are local content. We are a Nigeria company, UTM. And so doing, we are also mindful of the fact that this is the first of its kind project to be built by an indigenous company. Also, we are very mindful of the fact that local content plays a very big role in sanctioning and approving your local content. Your content is called your content plan. We've submitted our content plan with the Nigerian local content board. They've given us approval for our local content plan. And part of the plan is what I'm saying. There are certain aspects that cannot be done in this project in country Nigeria because there is no in-country capacity in terms of doing the models and doing the fabrication. No, that cannot be done in country. In place of that, we're going to take Nigerians and others out of the country to join in the various locations where the construction and fabrication of the models and the all is going to be done, and to the integration yard. When those models have been completed, then they'll start integrating them at an integration yard. We're going to take Nigerians that will be part of those processes, and they will have an hands-on experience on how to manage a plant of such nature offshore. So when they go through that process within the next 12 to 24 months, by the time the floating LNG is sailing back to Nigeria, they're already aware on how to manage and operate the plant. And by so doing, they will now be the ones that will be leading, and others will be learning from their experience as we improve and the risk and reduce and increase the Nigerian content participation and reduce the foreign participation in the O&M stage. Because each year you keep growing your Nigerian content participation. You grow it over a period of time, and at the time you will now become a full Nigerians managing and operating the plant. But for now, you need to be guided by those who have managed and operate such kind of plant elsewhere in the world, and then train them and see their maturity in ability to manage it. And as they keep growing in their maturity and ability, they will keep reducing and keep increasing the Nigerian content. That's the way it has been agreed between us and the Nigerian Content Board.
Thank you, Honorable. I think there are still two more questions. I don't know how long you want to stay on. It's already been an hour sitting and talking, so I'm sure you are exhausted. But we just wrapping up now. We have, I think, two more questions to take. Okay. Sammy was asking a question about like, does the UTM of the group publish sustainability reports? What metrics or KPIs does it use to measure ESG performance?
What metrics do they use for ESG? Okay. So like I said, right, the ESG on this project, the project hasn't commenced yet, but because you're going to deploy the location offshore, so the ESG aspect has been contracted to two renowned environmental companies. One is an international one, which is Petronel. Then the other is a local one, which is Richford. So both of them are working with our in-house HSC team to develop a robust ESG plan and metrics to measure the plan for implementation. And the process starts from once you start your in-country activities and then progresses into your operation and maintenance. So the ESG plan is being worked upon. Like I said, they've gone to the communities, they've identified all the communities that makes up the catchment area for this project. They're also working with the communities to see what will be the impact of this project as regards the environment, as regards the livestock, as regards the livestock, the trees, and all the other preservation of the environment that needs to be taken into consideration, just in case you have a methane leak during operation, what needs to be done to curtail that. All those environmental issues are being worked on in conjunction with the communities and the Ministry of Environment. So we are not doing that by ourselves alone. We are working with the regulators to ensure that we meet up the international standard as laid out in the Petroleum Industry Act. So for us, ESG is big for us because it's a fundamental key achievement for you to attract funding for this project. So we're working with the lenders in one hand to follow through the ESG laid down procedures and plan as put in place by the Ministry of Environment and the Midstream and Downstream Authority and the Nigeria Upstream Commission. So we are not doing it as standalone as UTM. We're working with the regulators to ensure that all our ESG plans gets the approval and is teleguided and stipulated in the laws of the land. So definitely, once the project starts, the ESG will be followed through as approved because every step that we take, the stage approvals have been given on the ESG that the project is going to run on. So don't worry about that. We're going to walk through with the regulators to ensure we achieve full compliance with the law on ESG. Thank you.
There is a question from Tidin Aew. It says, what are the challenges that UTM has faced so far and what ways to cope these challenges?
The challenges are enormous, right? Because when you're developing a project of such nature, you are going to face a lot of challenges. And the most important thing is the mitigation factor, right? And one thing that has worked for UTM, that UTM has gone for the world best. Because from day one, we realized that we don't have in-country capacity. As UTM, we don't have the capacity. The only way to achieve a project of international standard is to go out and get the companies that have built and managed and operate such kind of project and partner with them and get them to do the same which they've done elsewhere in the world. And that's what UTM has done. So on that, we went in. There are 4 open sea floating LNG in the world, and 1 is in Mozambique, 2 is in Malaysia, 1 is in Australia, which is the Shell Prelude. The companies that have built those floating LNG, they are the one building the UTM floating LNG. So they've a lot of lessons learned from their experience in doing several LNG projects, and they are deploying that lessons learned on this project. We did not stop there. We also realized that you also need to have a competent company that will be owner's representative to supervise what they are doing. So therefore, we brought in KBR, who is one of the group of companies that built the Nigerian LNG 27. Then it was called Nigerian LNG 21 to 26. It was called TSKJ. So out of those 4 consortiums that built the Nigerian LNG 21 to 26, 3 of those companies are currently working on the UTM project. So we are using Apple to benchmark Apple so that we have the desirable result and the required standard, and the project is built and is delivered in line with international best practice. So there's a lot of challenges along the way going forward. But because we've taken deliberate steps to ensure we work with the world best, we are tapping into their experiences on other projects which they delivered and lessons learned have been used to improve on the second and the third or fourth project. We're bringing that into our project. For instance, the floating LNG in Mozambique, we were told that the project is already overproducing above 100% capacity. Why? Because of the level of equipment that was used to develop this project. And the same company that did it are going to develop the UTM project. So a lot of lessons learned and experience on those lessons will be used to develop this project. So if you ask of all the other issues, there are a lot of issues, but UTM is determined to deliver this project. And the good thing is that we have the support of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. We have the support of the regulators, and most importantly, the government is seeing this as a way to monetize the offshore stranded gas. And this is the first project of its kind, and the government is giving all the support that is required to get this project through the finishing line. Thank you.
So the final question, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the audience are still sending in questions, but we have to draw the curtain. This is the last one, and we'll ask the chairman to come and do the closing remarks, so that our guest can also go ahead with some of his activities. We can't keep him more than 1.5 hours. So the final question, Honorable Julia, it's from Helen John Udofa. It says, in what ways will this project impact the domestic market in terms of job creation, price stability, and value creation along the LPG supply chain?
Thank you very much, Ellen. So you know,
Helen Udofa is in Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ellen. Like I said, right, this project is that's a opportunity to create 7,000 jobs across the value chain on this 7,000 jobs during operation. That's one step. The second step is that on the LPG market, I said earlier, Nigeria requires 2 million tons per annum of the LPG to support domestic market. Nigerian LNG is doing about 500,000 tons of that volume, right, from 21 to 26. Which means that there is a demand for 1.5 million tons that is being imported yearly to the country. Nigerian LNG is doing 27. So once 27 come on stream, they'll bring in more volume to the domestic market. On the UTM project, this UTM is going to bring in. On the UTM project, UTM is going to bring into the domestic market 500 tons of LPG. We've agreed with the NNPC Limited and agreed with the regulator that this volume will not be exported. This volume will be used to support the domestic requirement. So by so doing, there will be no issue of hedging against dollar because we're going to sell in Nigerian local currency, Naira. Then it will reduce their transportation cost because from offshore Akwa Ibom to onshore, you are going to do less than 24 hours to bring your LPG. Vis-a-vis importing an LPG from Europe that will take you over 10 days to get into the country. So therefore, a lot of cost savings would have been achieved from this project. And that implies bring down the cost of LPG to the last mile in the market. So by the time you factor those costs that you normally put in before you bring in your LPG, those costs will not be required when you are taking the volume from the UTM project, and that automatically drives down the price downward. So this will reduce and sufficiently bring down the price of LPG to every household in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Honorable. Okay, please take over, Alan, and proceed with the closing session. Alan, are you there? Mr. Akpan, Chairman Akpan?
I'm here. I thought Mr. Udeme is coming in for closing remarks. Mr. Udeme?
I hope he's not muted too.
No, if he's not in, then I think Mr. Adiola will be in for closing remarks. Mr. Adiola?
He's off. Yes, our dear guests, we want to really appreciate the session, you for the session, the time, making out time to speak to us on this particular subject matter. It's been an awesome 1.5 hours. I'm very sure this time you really created it for us. We really appreciate. We want to assure you as energy correspondents across African countries that we'll do justice to all that has been said here. And we assure you that we'll build on this relationship even as we hope to meet you at African Energy Week. So thank you on behalf of all of us from South Africa, Ghana, Mozambique, Tanzania, Gambia, Uganda, Kenya, to mention but few. We want to thank you. Thank you. We can't appreciate you enough, and we hopefully there's a way we reward our host, our guest. So we have a plaque for you when we meet you in South Africa come November.
Okay.
So thank you so much. We really appreciate. We have learned so much, and I am very sure all the participants here too have learned so much. So again, we are offering ourselves as a partner in information dissemination across Africa. What we aim to do at Ajerap is to tell our stories. We really don't want to rely on international media platforms to tell our stories, and it is interesting. This is the local content part contribution from our own hand. So once again, we appreciate you for making our time for this special occasion, and we pray that God will continue to bless you for making Africa proud. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you. Yeah.
All right. And to all our participants, we also appreciate you. It's not easy making out time to attend this special session. We're not going to take it for granted. So thank you all for coming, and we hope to meet you soon or during our next sessions. Thank you, and God bless you.
Bye for now.